Sometimes you have VBA code that you want to use in other workbooks, or you want other users to use your code. Don't keep reinventing the wheel. There are actually two ways to recycle your code in other projects. The first way is transferring your module code in the form of a Bas-file. And the second method is to create an add-in which can be activated in any other project. Let's start with the first one. How do you create a Bas-file? Say you have the following subroutine in your VBA editor. How do you open your VBA editor? Alt F11, insert a module. I created a very simple sub. This sub is not really a macro. A macro runs on its own. This sub has an argument. So when you call the sub alarm, you have to specify how many minutes do you want to go pass by before the alarm kicks in. This is very simple code. IEnd, which is of the long type, is the timer. The timer is the time in seconds since midnight, plus I minutes times 60, because we are dealing with seconds. So we have to multiply I minutes by 60 because timer is in seconds. Then we loop while timer, the seconds since midnight, is still less than IEnd. We don't want to block the system while this is looping, so we use the do events subroutine. And finally, when the loop is finished, we tell the user how that those minutes have passed. See, that code is so important to us that we want to use it in other projects. So we right-click on the module, export the file. And then this screen pops up, and it's going to save that as a Bas type file. I called it alarm.bas, but that is completely up to you. Then we use that Bas file in a new project, a new file, a new workbook, or on another machine. And we use there a subroutine that I call run alarm and sub, and we want to use here that Bas file. So I don't have to reinvent the code and retype it. In the left panel here, we are going to right-click on this module and import a Bas file this time. Before we had exported it. And then it will show you this listing. It will show you for all the Bas files, and there is alarm.bas. I'm going to open it and import it into this system. Now it creates a new module. It's probably called module 11. I renamed it to new module, or my alarm module, whatever you want to call it. By the way, if this screen is not available automatically, you always go to View, Properties window. And then in module 1, where we had already run alarm, we are going to call the alarm one. And there is alarm. It comes from the new module, which was imported. It required one argument. And instead of typing a number of 1 minute, 15 minutes, 60 minutes, I'm using an input box. How many minutes do you want to let go by? By default I do 1. And after 1 minute it will tell us that 1 minute have passed. That was method 1. Now another method is an add-in. I will explain later what the advantage might be of using an add-in over a Bas file. A Bas file is very simple, and you can give that Bas file to anyone, or you can keep it on your network so others can always call it anytime they need it. So we are going to create an add-in in a new workbook. This is going to become our add-in. It's the same subroutine as we discussed before. It is in a module. I made sure that I have only one sheet in this project. So if you have more sheets, I would delete the other ones, for they are completely empty. We are going to use this project only for add-in purposes. Okay. Then we compile the alarm add-in, debug, compile alarm add-in. That makes it run faster. We rename it. View properties if this window is not open. And we are going to save that whole project as an Excel add-in, XLAM. And it stores that in Microsoft add-ins. That's where all the add-ins are collected together. So now we open another workbook, another project, whatever you call it, and from File, Options, we go to the Add-ins tab. You will see that these are all inactive add-ins at this moment on my system. So we are going to click on Go to activate it. And when you click there, it will open up this little dialog box. And one of the add-ins that you have to check on is Alarm. Once we click on OK, we will find it in VBA editor as a new add-in. When I select that add-in and I go to the object browser, the object browser is this button in case you wonder, and I look in the library Alarm add-in, I see it has one module, one sheet, this workbook, and it only has one member Alarm. This could be many other members. When you click on Alarm, it will show you at the bottom what that function or subroutine does. However, when we are going to add a new module to our project where we want to use that add-in, and I call it subtest alarm, and I start typing alarm, it does not pop up in my options listing. Why not? Because we haven't added that to the VBA section yet. You go to Tools, References, and make sure that your alarm add-in is checked on. At the moment you do that, you will find it there as a new section, reference to alarm XLAM, and there is alarm XLAM. So now I can just call alarm again, like we did before. You are recycling your alarm code. What is the advantage of an add-in over a Bas file? If you ever decide to change your original file, your alarm add-in, on the network or on your computer, all the changes will automatically take effect. If you ever change a Bas file, you have to export it again and import it again, and everyone has to do it who is going to use it. But an add-in has the advantage that it automatically takes effect as long as the add-in is on the network, and you just replace the old one with the new one. However, be aware that you cannot change the parameters. So if you decide that you want a second parameter for alarm, not only the number of minutes, but also do you want to be alerted, yes or no, or what do you want to do when the alarm goes off, then that is a second argument. But when we implemented this subroutine, we only used one argument. So it will run into trouble because it says I need another argument, unless you made that optional. So here are the two different ways of recycling your code. We discussed that extensively, I think. It's different ways of doing things, but remember, the second way has the advantage that it's easier to update. Otherwise, it doesn't really matter which way you go. You want to know much more about Visual Basic and its marvelous power, so I created a CD-ROM called Excel 2007 VBA, which can also be used in 2010 and 2013. It has 3 parts. Each part has more than 500 slides, very extensive. Here is the issue we discussed in this video. You want to know much more about VBA, otherwise you will be very limited in using VBA. I developed these things. You can find them at mrexcel.com or genesispc.com, and my name is Gerard Verschuren. I wish you good luck with Excel VBA.